This is a little bit long, but yeah, this might be too long. Well, we'll see. We'll try to bomb through this. You have two options. It all began rather innocently, at least that's how I saw it in my befuddled brain. I had a blister on my foot, which for some reason was taking its own sweet time healing. In actuality, the blister was more like a crater, a quarter-inch deep and it's about the size of a quarter. It kept oozing pus and blood, no matter how much Neosporin I put on it. As I was working on a job, I couldn't afford to stop, just kept changing the dressing and hobbling around on my toes, hoping it would get better. This is when the stupid white man's disease kicked in. After about a week of this foolish behavior, I noticed that my foot had started to swell up. It began to look like one of those pickled pig's feet you see in the soul food section of the neighborhood market. This was followed by my lower leg swelling to about double the size of my other leg, and then my knee, which became so swollen it resembled a reddish-brown grapefruit half. Still, I hobbled on, thinking that it would all go away, perhaps by magic. Finally, when my knee began to get dime-sized purple and blue splotches on it, I thought maybe I should see the doctor. And you could tell I'd studiously avoided contact with the medical community. At the walk-in place on Willow, the doc looked at my foot and said, it looked kind of funky, but it was fixable. He kept asking me if I was diabetic. I kept saying, I don't know. And when I showed him my knee, he kind of freaked out and said I was going to have to go to the ER. I told him I didn't have that kind of money or insurance, and he said I'd have to go to the dreaded Harbor General, the place where the po folks go, where you could catch some disease in the waiting room that you could just about let's just skip that. Too hard to read. So I screwed up my courage and drove myself over to Torrance to Harbor General. I think I still thought they'd check me out, give me some antibiotics and an anti-inflammatory, and send me home. I had a bad case of single white man disease. Or stupid white man disease, depending on your interpretation. I got there at 3:30 p.m. on 11/24. It wasn't until 6:30 a.m. the following morning that I finally got someone to tell me what was going on. I was a bit cranky from lack of sleep and food, and what seemed to me a lack of follow-through by the staff. I practically pinned the doctor against the wall and said, either you tell me what's going on or I'm out of here. That's when he dropped the bomb on my skinny white ass. He said, you're a raging diabetic with blood sugar rate of 320 out of a possible 400. Normal is around 110. Your blood pressure is 189 over 90. Now it's 121 over 60. You've got a septic infection in your knee, there might be a blood clot in your leg, and there's a distinct possibility that you might lose your foot. He said I was going to be admitted to the hospital in an hour or so, and I should go back to the waiting room and wait my turn like a good little guy. Well, needless to say, I was dumbfounded. I'd never been in a hospital before, well, except for when I was born. I knew that if I didn't go now, there was a strong possibility that the next time I came through the front door, I'd be wearing a toe tag and a black zippered bag. An argument broke out in my head which went like this. You know you want to die, and here's your chance. Wait, I know I talk a lot about wanting to go sooner rather than later, but I don't know if that's really true. Life hasn't been a bowl of cherries for sure, but there are too many people depending on me. To just give up now would be stupid. I made a few calls to let my mom and a few of my friends know where I disappeared to and waited for my name to be called. Soon I was in the main ER. Apparently the room I'd spent the last 15 hours in was merely a triage area. Wearing nothing but a gown on a gurney with a monitoring devices plugged into my chest and an IV drip of potassium fluids and antibiotics going into my arm. A string of docs came by, each saying the same thing as the one before. Some trying to assure me that it would all be okay, some making me think I was a living pariah, ruining their morning. This is in a county hospital, by the way. I soon lost track of the time and would only know if it was day or night by the changing light, though the first 25 hours I had no clue. They x-rayed me and checked me for blood clots, which was kind of cool. They used an ultrasound device and I could hear my blood flow. It sounded like some Pink Floyd special effects. Good news, no blood clot, just a swollen leg. Then I was parked in an exam room for 6 hours or so before they told me I'd have to go to another hospital since there was no room available. In my mind's eye, a little calculator was guesstimating how much all this was going to cost, but there wasn't anything I could do about it. I was playing on their court now, so I had to play by their rules. And their rules suck, by the way. So I ended up at Rancho Los Amigos, a county hospital in Downey. I came to call it the circus. I was in a room with 3 other guys, 2 Hispanics, myself, and a guy from Somalia, with round-the-clock supervision by some Homeland Security guards. While the rest of us were on a diabetic regimen, 2,000 calories a day, although it really seemed more like 1,500 calories a day, he was eating 3,000 plus calories a day. Sometimes his guards would sit up all night long watching TV, eating burgers and fries, and talking a blue streak while we tried to sleep. My bed was next to the door. They'd go out to take a smoke, and they had a nasty habit of leaving it ajar, even after they'd come back inside. So I spent a number of nights freezing my ass and trying to sleep. Fortunately, my fevers kept me warm, and the T3 Tylenol coating that they gave me for pain let me drift in and out. Eventually, I worked up the nerve to let it be known that I didn't appreciate their shenanigans. Imagine a room with TVs blaring Spanish language shows, 60s reruns of Get Smart and Star Trek. Because every bed had its own TV, so everybody got to watch what they wanted to watch. And it was crazy. Then add the beeping of drip monitors and chattering nurses, finally mixing into that being awakened every so often so they can change out your IV, check your blood sugar, and shoot you with insulin. I don't think I got more than 4 hours of sleep a night for the first 5 nights. The food was lukewarm, overcooked, and bland, but at least I still had my right foot. The 2 other guys had already lost theirs. My primary doc, a Sikh, complete with turban and beard, named Dr. S., had said to me on my first morning, "You have 2 options. I can cut off your foot or put you on antibiotics." And the way he looked at me, I thought he was going to whip out a scimitar and cut it off right there and then on the bed. I think I dreamed that night of him dancing down the hall with that scimitar in his hand and a sash around his waist with severed feet hanging off of it like so many souvenirs. It was like a Bollywood production, you know, there's music, making the moves, you know. I have very vivid dreams because I'm crazy. I quickly said something like, "Please, sir, could I have door number 2? And thus began my adventure with the medical business. It started on 11/25 and it ended on 12/09, almost 2 weeks later to the day. And I'm going to stop it right there, even though it only goes on for a couple more paragraphs. So that was my introduction to the hospital. And there are numerous other blogs along the lines of that. And even though I wrote them in a very serious tone, I find that many people, for some reason, find them hilarious. Which I don't necessarily get. But I'm just here to make you guys happy.